going to start. If you don't know me, I'm Michael Cantwell, the president of this huge club, but growing. And Arlene Osteen is going to make an announcement about the petitions, which are super important, getting these on the ballot next year. And then Susan Berkowitz-Schwartz make another announcement. And meanwhile, Rob Resnick is tabulating our votes there. I thought it would be fun just to see where we're leaning in terms of both the issues and the candidates.
We need some late ballots to post.
Okay. All right, Arlene.
Hi. Well, how many of you have heard about the change in the ban assault weapons petition drive? Well, there's a lot of vagueness still about it because that's the way this government works here in our state. But for right now, the step that we're at is we've gathered the requisite number, almost 100,000 statewide, for it to be at the Supreme Court, so that the Supreme Court of Florida can make the decision if the ballot's language is fine, that it's a single subject, they have a bit of a criteria to follow. So it's been there for maybe over a month, so it's up to them. But in the meantime, a new Attorney General, Moody, decided that the ballot was misleading the public. And she advised the Supreme Court not to approve it. Why not? This is the way our government works, right? It has been. So consequently, we came out with a new ban assault weapons ballot, which I have with me. So what does this mean? There's some confusion as to whether all the ballots, most of them were yellow, do you remember that? Were all of the ones that were signed prior and on July 1st will be counted. Those that are signed afterwards, I'm not sure. But what we need to do is turn in every single ballot that you, I'm calling it ballots, I'm sorry, I'm a little jet lagged. Every single petition that you may have, that you might have received, turn them in. Turn them in to me, turn in the signed ones, turn in the blank ones. This is the instructions that I received. Who knows, maybe they'll throw out Moody's suggestion, I don't know. But in the meantime, we have to keep this effort going. We have to be, end of December, us grassroots gatherers, to get, we want 1 million, so that there's a margin of, is something up?
No.
So that we have a margin of error, because really what we need statewide is 766,200 that are validated by the supervisor of elections, meaning that they are signed by current Florida registered voters. Am I being clear? Okay, so what I have with me, I made up a bunch of, do I need the mic? So this, it's a one-page now. It's a one-page ballot, the one that will count for now. I have them in packets of 10. So if you have neighbors or family or friends, as long as they're Florida voters, please come to me tonight and take them. There is good news. Gail Schwartz, who is the chair of this campaign, because she is the aunt of Alex Schachter, a 14-year-old who lost his life in Parkland at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. She was beside herself, and Ted Deutsch told her there's other ways to legislate what our government doesn't and our Congress doesn't. And it is the citizen initiative, the petition gathering, the polling out. Sorry. So she's been working so hard to fundraise because, believe it or not, it takes millions of dollars to get any of these initiatives initiatives up on the election, up on the ballot. And we stand a really good chance now because of the tragedies and it's all in the news. The good news is, Post came out with an article yesterday or the day before that many big donors have come forward. We might have about 1 million, I forgot to bring the article, I didn't know.
It was in the local paper too.
Good, good. So that's a good push. You can't get this without the money. And so, we're thinking if every single person can get 20 people to sign, we'll get there. We'll get there. Congress has been wonderful. All of you have been wonderful about every time I make it appeal, I go home. I've been able to give her, I'd say every week and a half to two, a pile of either 250 to 700 signed ballots. That's what I've been doing for her all these months. Any questions? The next ballot is, that I've been also championing, is the expansion of Medicaid. And there's 800,000 Floridians who do not have health insurance. They're not poor enough and they don't make enough money, and it's just
They're in the
dire.
donut hole between, they're too rich for Medicaid and they're too poor to buy insurance. For the, it's 138% of the poverty rate. For a single person, that's about $22,000 a year. For a family of three, I think it's $28,000 a year. And these people that are making $2,000 a month are gonna go out and buy health insurance, when it's not subsidized. And something like 1% of them, actually had an article about it in the newsletter, 1% of people without insurance die. So, 800,000, that's 8,000 people every year the Republicans are killing in Florida.
So, to be a little, I don't want to be so, but you can look at it as we either kill them without health insurance or we kill them with
With the
guns.
guns.
This is a state that is so shameful that it angers me so much and it's so boiled up to what Clark has to do with my disgust. Yes.
Yeah, is there a deadline for getting the petitions back to you?
Yeah.
And what's the best
The
way
end
to
of
get
December.
them to you?
Either, if you know where the Democratic office is on Jog and Atlantic, or I have my name on the slip of paper, or even call me and I'll get them, or give them to Bob or Dave or Mike. Yeah, I'll get them.
Is it December?
The end, yeah, the final day is February 1st, but we need to give a month for them to be vetted by the supervisor. The end of December, it's not so long, given the, I'm gonna, yes, so please, and if they're not sure if they signed it, let them sign it again, we'll make sure we take out the duplicates. And I also have some extra, expansion of Medicaid, so if you want to take some of these to get signed too. But I also got word that they don't have any money and they're stopping the petition, but I heard that also on Amendment 4, and never stopped collecting petitions, and sure enough, we managed to get it across. That was the, giving the voting rights to returning citizens. So
Is that where
it's
this,
crazy making.
and where does that stand now with the pay of their fines?
We're going to have a program on that in October, but currently Dave Arenberg, the state attorney for this county, and in Miami, whoever it is, the three Democratic counties are looking for ways around it. One of the things they're talking about is converting the fine into a civil lien, which can be worked off by community service, and then you can register right away. My bright idea, which got shot down at the DEC as a crazy idea when I proposed it, is to make sure they've got all of the numbers lined up and then go to George Soros and say we need $20 million and pay off all of the fines. There is apparently a crowdfunding
Well, let me say
and other
something too.
things.
The records of who owes what and how in which county is not straight. There's so
Right.
many errors in it that you don't even know, a person wouldn't even know what they might owe. And so,
Greg may know more about it too. I think he collected more,
Well, Arlene did great work, but I would just, I'll participate here too. I helped gather petitions. I understand a week or two ago, there was actually some new understandings of what the legislation that was passed in July and signed on July 1st does. The bottom line is, the four corners of the sentencing document are it.
right.
And all the other baloney around it is not your sentence. What was passed was, when you've done your sentence, you're done.
Right.
And so the four corners of your document
Should.
often do not have all these fines and other rigmarole that has been done up.
or do returning citizens have that certificate?
Well, right, so a returning citizen would have to go dig it out and find their document and all of that, and if they've got multiple sentences, I don't know. But it does make it kind of less depressing about what was done. Another aspect is, 1996 is when Florida started to impose these fines. And come 2003, 2006, that's when they really started ramping up. And now it's crazy. There was a woman who wrote in the Washington Post about her experience. She included the figure, I guess her understanding of, in 2018, the people who were convicted and fined and everything, that's $1 billion of funds. So on the one hand, $20 million of George Soros is quite nice, that's not $1 billion. But that's the recent stuff. And if you think about, oh wait a minute, if I came out, I did it in 96 and whatever, I'm an older person, to whatever extent older people care more about, maybe this does matter and I want to vote. An older population may be more likely to have
Lower fine.
lower or no fines. So do not be disheartened. There is a lot that will come out of this measure.
And there's also the ACLU, the League of Women Voters, the NAACP has this in court. They're challenging all this. Now, there's an issue too. I mean, what's criminal if it gets converted to the financial, they're calling this a tax poll, like from the
Poll tax,
Jim Crow. Poll tax. That, yeah, just keep me straight. Which is really what it is. And then they're saying if it has nothing to do with criminality now, it's in the civic court, so why should that affect someone's right to vote as well? So, and Dave Arenberg, when it became effective on January 8th, he came out right away as they were saying, David or Michael, you know, I'm, it's like I'm
Movie
driving.
look-alike.
Okay, he came out and said, as your state attorney, if you in good faith registered to vote, he is not going to prosecute. This is great for the people in Palm Beach County. And I also heard Andrew Warren, who is the state attorney of Hillsborough, had a better idea. He sent out to the tens of thousands of people in this situation, 1.4 million are, in his county, and line them up. And as you walk toward the supervisor of elections office to register, you're picking up trash, and that's your community service. Because they have not put a specification on how much community service might equate with this. It is so, it's vague, crazy-making, disgusting, but we'll handle every hoop. So that's the latest on Amendment 4 right now. It is in the courts. Right.
That doesn't sound good for Amendment 4.
Excuse me?
That doesn't sound good for Amendment 4,
By
with
the
the
way,
nature of the
but
courts.
65%, almost 65% of the electorate voted for it. This is the people's will. And this government that we have now is not abided by the people's will. But we are working and not letting go.
Okay, I don't know if I need this.
Music, because it works for them.
Okay,
You project, you have to talk loud.
I'm going to say welcoming. Welcoming America, some of you may know about that. It's all over the country. There's a welcoming week. Welcoming America welcomes people from different countries, that's immigrants, to different towns. And there's a whole thing you can see on the web all about it. Well, we signed up, and there's a welcoming week. I think it's
September 13th to the 22nd.
Right, and we're going to be doing activities that week. The first activity is something I've showed you before. We have from All People's Day, which is my nonprofit organization, September 14th, which is a Saturday. We're going to be doing first impressions. People are going to have only positive impressions. You're going to get a person who may be different from you in some way, and you're going to be a partner. You're going to give each other a first impression word, and there'll be all kinds of positive words all over the walls. And then you're going to do a portrait of that person. I will personally, you can see some kids doing it, from kids to adults. I will personally take you through making a portrait. You may think, oh, I can't draw a straight line with a ruler, but you can make a beautiful portrait, and I can show you how. And as you get to know this person that you don't know, you'll be making the portrait and talking with them, etc. So that's on the 14th, and the reason we do that is we feel that people will get to know each other from different groups. That's one way to stop prejudice. Because if you know somebody, you start to think, well, gee, I never met anyone from that group, or maybe I've known them, but I didn't know them too well. Maybe there are some there. Maybe, there are good people there. And we know there's good and bad in every group. So that's one way to work on prejudice, which, really is a big thing. That's what's here, and there are other projects every month leading to our All People's Day Diversity Festival. All these projects are right here in Pompey Park. It'll be Saturday, September 14th from 2 to 4 p.m. And that's the first project. We may have a mural project in between, and I don't know if that's going to happen, but yeah, there's a mural. This will be, if it happens that week, we'll be making a mural like this. People from different cultures with their arms crossing their hearts, holding hands, hoping for peace and understanding in the world. And that's what we do for All People's Day. And on their clothing, you can see a few different flags. I just put a few flags on there, but people will be painting their flag from the country that either they come from or their ancestors come from. So everybody is represented. This will be in one of 2 schools we are negotiating. So that's another project, and we'll tell you about it. Now, Arlene is going to tell you about a very important part of this project, too.
Wait, before you go on, are there any more ballots to turn in? I'm almost done typing, I don't want to not count anybody. Anybody else?
Can we turn in 2?
I already double counted you.
Only
It's okay.
Okay, the main theme that we are calling this welcoming week here in Del Rey, and it does invite everyone from the county, is through the arts, building bridges to diverse communities. So as Susan describe, and this is phenomenal, we'll have that first impressions, then we'll have a mural, and then we're gonna culminate with a civics piece where a good friend of mine from the League of Women Voters is chair of civics education and does more, and she's really she's Canadian born. There's a wonderful workshops. She has so many in mind, and what we're trying to do is culminate our week at the Delray Library. I haven't heard yet if I got the day I want, which would be the 21st, on some civics geared to, and we're targeting the populations that don't usually participate in public events. Temple Sinai, the Bangladesh community, the Jamaican. We had a very big event on May 4th for the Haitian American community. We had 500 people come. It was fabulous. And so we're really, and Susan's Old People's is our umbrella organization for that. So that's coming up, so keep that in mind. And then the third thing, which I'll be very short on, is to remind you that on different topics, on August 24th, from 2 to 4 at the Delray Public Library, the National Organization for Women, NOW, is going to have Women's Equality Day celebration. And it's free and it's wonderful. And our keynote speaker is Robert Watson, who is a feminist, and Joy Dean, she's from FAU. So it's going to be so celebratory, and we're looking forward to this is the 99th year for the voting amendment for women. We're going to push for the ERA. So please mark your calendars to come on August 24th.
What time?
Oh, and don't forget to see me on petitions.
What time?
And apropos the Haitian, the Haitian, what was it, Appreciation Day? Or
Haitian American Culture Day.
Culture Day, yeah. David and I got great T-shirts. They invented liberty in 1849 because, of course, they were the first country in this hemisphere of slaves who threw off the European yoke, and they've been paying for it ever since. With respect to Haitians, one of the things we're going to do tonight when we write postcards is we pre-printed postcards. Half of it is in Creole, and then we'll write a little message underneath it to people in the Chatelaine district, which is precinct 7196, and Bob's going to talk in a minute about the precinct development. It was a little self-serving on my part because I happen to be the precinct leader, Sandy and I together, for that precinct. And there's something like 2,000 voters in the precinct, and they are like 99% Democrat. But we've got to get them out. Our next meeting, we're going to have Dr. Mark Lafalez, who's a psychiatrist and the president of the Haitian American Democratic Club. So it brings in that whole, it's really the difficulty we had over the years was going into a community where, you're dealing with a culture that is not your culture. And what's happened far too often here is, you have white people going into Haitian or African American communities every 4 years or every 2 years and asking for their vote, but where are we the rest of the time? So anyway, Bob is the co-zone leader for Zone 8. There's 40 precincts in Zone 8, and I think he's going to make a pitch for some more precinct leaders out of this crowd.
Thanks, Mike. Yes, this is an unpaid political announcement, which in this room basically means it's an announcement. you know, besides being the, one of the two vice presidents for this club, as Mike just said, I'm one of two zone leaders, which is basically the geographic area comprising the city of Delray Beach and along the A1A up through the town of Gulfstream, the 40 electoral precincts that reside in that area, which we refer to in the, at the county level as Zone 8. And so working alongside me, our team consists of a number of precinct leaders, sometimes called precinct captains. Several of them are in this room and are also, you know, active members of the club. And it's also noteworthy that the zone maintains a very tight affinity with the club. We enjoy an interdependent relationship where the zone helps the club helps the zone, and ultimately we share in the duties of being the boots on the ground to boost voter turnout. We have 22,000 registered Democrats in Zone 8. And as Mike said, it's broken up into 40 precincts. At the present time, we're covering slightly more than half of those precincts, which means that slightly less than half are yet to be covered. We need help. We need a lot of help. And you know, the role of the precinct leader is essentially to be the ambassador for the party, the go-to person for the voters in that precinct, in that community. If they have questions about an upcoming election, if they have concerns regarding their voter eligibility, if they want to register for voting by mail, you know, this is the go-to person that can, you know, help get issues sorted out for them, can even help advocate for them in other areas, showing that Democrats are not just about getting votes, but about actually performing service, performing community service. It's through the precinct leader that so much of that manifests. But a precinct leader, her or himself, can't do that alone either. Why? Because very often in a precinct, we may have a gated community. We might have a secured apartment building where it's very difficult to get in, to do canvassing, to reach the voters face to face. And, you know, as well as, you know, there's just the sheer size of some of these precincts. I mean, we have some precincts where there are upwards of 2,500 registered Democrats. No one person can take on that job. And so we have all sorts of need for help, all sorts of need for volunteerism, whether it's actually being a precinct leader or in fact being a block captain, a building captain, an assistant, someone who can help, you know, carve it up, help divide and conquer the challenging work that we have of voter outreach. In 2018, in Zone 8, our turnout for the midterm elections among registered Democrats was around 66%, which in the history of midterm elections is actually pretty good. But certainly less than the Republicans. One of the unfortunate manifestations of that was our very good, very qualified candidate for House District 89, Jim Bonfiglio, lost his election by 32 votes. 32 votes. Just imagine if instead of 66% turnout, we had 67% turnout. Jim would be in Tallahassee right now. So, and Jim is going to run again, that is true. But the point is, every vote does count, every vote does matter. And the way we can get people to vote, help people to vote, to make the job of registering to vote, actually voting, to make it easier, is through our precinct development program. So what am I looking for? What's the ask? The ask is for you. The ask is for your time. You know, again, if you don't necessarily feel like you could help, you know, in an entire precinct, we still can use your help. Every one of these hardworking precinct leaders can use a helping hand. I can guarantee you that. And all of that will serve to get the job done. So there's no job too small, no job too great. But the mission at hand is when the votes are cast on November 3rd of next year, if we want to do our part here in Zone 8, which is part of Palm Beach County, which is part of Florida, which is part of America, if we want to do our part here in Zone 8, that first turnout digit, you see what I just did? I want to see at least an 80% turnout here in Zone 8. 8 for 8. Okay? If we're going to achieve 8 for 8, we need help in our precincts. And so, please, I'm asking you, if you can give us a few hours a month, that's really all it takes. Honest to God, that's all it takes. This is the time, this is the year in which we are getting our organizational house in order, because when the ball drops at Times Square, we're all going to be flat out. We're going to hit the ground running, and it's not going to stop until November 3rd. So this is the time for us to get everything squared away. If you have any questions regarding, what a precinct leader does or how a block captain can help, whatever, I can take questions now, or you can call me. I will be more than happy to take your call anytime. I don't know if you can certainly get my number at the Palm Beach County Democratic Party website, but for those who do have pens and want to write it down, it is area code 203, yes, I moved here from Connecticut, 980-3558. Again, my name is Bob Avarak. I'm with the zone leader for the Palm Beach County Democratic Party, 203-980-3558. Let's get this done, okay?
Thanks, Bob. Rob has tabulated the results. What we said we were going to do tonight, because we didn't have a speaker, was the speaker is you. And I thought the 3 questions we were asking were, who are you supporting and why, if you are, if you know yet, what are the most important issues, and what could we be doing more? I couldn't put that in the chart, so. So I'll let Rob give us the results, and then maybe David can go around with the mic, and people who want to talk about who they're supporting or what issues and why, or not. What we're going to do after that is I've got 400 addresses here in the Haitian community, and all we have to do is fill out the address, the return address, if you brought stickers. If you didn't, we have the things that charities give you, wasting money by trying to get you to give them more money, so they send you these little return address stickers. You can slap those on or write your own. One of the things that I want to achieve with this, other than getting a nice postcard that's handwritten to this community, is finding out who's still there. What I did, we've got the voter activation network van that lists. A precinct leader can go on and perform all kinds of data polls. And what I did is I looked at everybody out of those 2,000 or so people that live there who didn't vote in the midterms in 2018. And there's 400 names. So if we get postcards back, not at this address, we'll know, an easy way of fixing the voting records, because what I found out, especially in that community, is you may see a lot of different people with different names at the same address, and they move, they'll start out in one place, living with relatives, and then they get on their feet and they move somewhere else. But,
Do you know, we saved, like, we got one postcard back from last month. We didn't save it, we didn't know you needed it.
oh, yeah, no, definitely
So
do,
we should
yeah,
save it
yeah,
and bring
yeah.
it to the next.
Yeah. And David got a couple back.
Back to that. Some of which I didn't write.
Yeah.
You could use my return address.
Right. So, okay, Rob, Marlene.
Of the 400 people who didn't vote, are they citizens? Does the bag
These
say?
are-
Yeah, they're eligible to vote. These are the voting records.
These are the people
Yeah.
who did vote in 2016.
No, I didn't do that. I didn't do that, no. No, if I did that, there were only 200, or no, 160. So, so a lot of these, people could be new voters that just didn't vote in the midterms. But,
But they're not necessarily Democrats.
well, they're about 90% Democrats in that area,
Did any of the Haitians who came to the function join this club?
Which function?
The Haitian party?
We gave, no, I don't think anybody did, and it's not, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, if I were a Haitian immigrant or, a Haitian who has family living in the house, working 1 or 2 jobs, this is probably not where they're gonna spend their time, I don't think, I would really love to, personally, for trying to get the vote out there, find people in that community. Bob was talking about having block captains. It's a very big community, and if you get like 5 or 6 people who handle the area around their house, it makes it a lot easier.
There's also the Haitian Democratic Caucus.
Right.
Yeah, Mark's group.
Yes,
yeah.
because it could be a language issue too.
Yeah,
We don't hold meetings in Creole.
right. So, Rob, you want, any other questions or? Okay.
Individual
Yes,
pledge.
No, I can't wait to hear these. I'll do the candidates
Yes.
first, since that's what's in the top of my head. So, first place was Elizabeth Warren. Second place was Joe Biden. Third place was Pete Buttigieg. They were tied, but Biden had more top votes. So that gets us to fourth place was Bernie Sanders. Fifth place, there was a tie, Amy Klobuchar, Kamala Harris, and Cory Booker. And then the next one was Julian Castro. The other ones, there were so small votes that they didn't really register. So those were the top 8 in order. Any big surprise?
Well, Biden was,
There were a lot of votes, but a lot of people got 1 or 2, so they didn't figure into the tally. Okay, moving on to the issues. Number 1 issue was climate change.
all right.
Number 2 was healthcare.
Yeah.
Number 3 was a tie with secure elections and guns. None of these are surprise with today's world. Next was immigration, tied with endless war. And then it was a tie after that between education and other, and there were 3 votes, there were several votes for other, 3 votes for other. Each person listed a different issue, so really.
What were they?
One was Supreme Court, one was national debt, and one was ERA. I should have remembered that already. And then after that was reproductive choice, followed by LGBTQ rights, and there were no votes for workers' rights.
It's funny, Supreme Court, in the last election, they did a poll afterwards. It was the number 1 issue for Republicans, the Supreme Court, and it was down at the bottom of the list for Democrats. I could not, I couldn't believe that they weren't talking about it more. But I'm going to read something here from 2 issues ago, because we had a thing happen with a friend of ours and a friend of my aunt's. Both of us got defriended or unfriended on Facebook for commenting on attacks on Bernie Sanders. And, you know, just pointing out that, yes, he's in the 1% now because he wrote a book. You know, that's how he launched himself into the 1%. And I was getting ready to post an article from the Times that day, because it was the day he released his tax return, and all of a sudden the screen went blip. And Facebook does this sometimes. I don't know how it works, but and I'm scrolling up and down, looking, and it says the commenter withdrew her comment. And I thought, oh, good, all right, maybe she realized her. No, I was unfriended. A minute later, I had no longer had access to that conversation, and then the same thing happened to my aunt the next day. So we wrote this in April, Come Together Right Now. Among the many elements that created the perfect storm that blew Trump into the White House was his ability to sow division and depress voter turnout. Our Democratic field is large and diverse. Every one of our candidates towers above Trump, a man who is morally, temperamentally, psychologically, and intellectually unfit for any office, much less our highest. And while they propose different solutions for dealing with the most important problems facing us today, every one of them is proposing a more humane, just, and equitable society. It's thus critical not only that we stand behind whoever prevails, but that we avoid demonizing any candidate and keep the debate on the issues on which they are divided. We don't want to see Republican ads next year that feature Democrats bashing one another. So we have the indivisible pledge that Indivisible put out, and we put it on the back of every issue, so it should be on the back of the most recent issue. And, you know, it's hard because we already saw the game show hosts 2 weeks ago that hosted the debate, Jake Tapper and his colleagues who spent as much time as they could saying, Senator Harris, what do you think about Vice President Biden's plan? Vice President Biden, what's your comment on this? And I watched in that debate, they went back 5 times. It was Harris, Biden, Harris, Biden, Harris, and it was not because those people wanted to be doing it. It's because the clowns that were running the debate wanted to have a food fight in there. And I mean, fortunately, what happened this last weekend has taken the corporate media's mind off that, and they're, I guess, realizing that they have a psychopath as president, and maybe they should be reporting that instead of the differences between Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders. Anyway, why don't we, David, you want to walk around with this? And anyone has any comments, and then we'll move on to the postcard, right? Whatever.
Who wants to start the food fight?
So, you know, when Rob was talking about the results, and you mentioned that 3 of us in the room chose to vote for other, and each of us had 3 different topics. I found it curious that among the 3, and basically among all of us, that nobody chose to select as an other topic the Mueller report / impeachment.
Yeah.
Curious, because, you know, what does that mean in terms of where each of us, you know, is in regard to our thoughts about the current investigation in the House and where that may or may not be going, and how strongly we either support moving to a formal impeachment inquiry or that we don't do that. Does that vote mean that that's just not in our radar anymore?
Well, I think that was the issue. When we said issues, it was issues that are important in the next election. And I think we don't really know at this point what's going to happen. I mean, you know, I don't buy the argument that you can't have impeachment because Moscow Mitch is going to, you know, not convict in the Senate. But a number of people have said that they, you know, they're suing now for this information. If more information comes out, you can have a snowball effect. If it doesn't, okay, you know, we have to beat him. We have to beat him in the next election. And it seems to me that it's not as difficult as people think. I mean, all you have to do is run the ads of the things that he promised. You know, the most beautiful health care plan you've ever seen. You know, and what happened? 4 million people lost their insurance. That's not beautiful. You know, demonizing people, a tax cut that you know, even the American people, as brainwashed as they are, sussed onto the fact that they were screwed by it. So anyway.
One of the things that Marion always talked about was you get these fake polls in the mail that are, you know, fill out our poll, what's the most important issues for Democrats, you know, and how much can you give us?
Right.
And they never listed war on any of them. You know, the fact that we are in endless war. And when I filled out my what are the most important things, I filled out for number 1 and 2 climate, because if you don't have a planet, you're not going to have anywhere to have endless wars. And number 2 was endless wars. We have a defense budget, an offense budget, which is, you know, as great as the next 9 countries combined, and that includes China and Russia. I think South Africa comes in third, if I'm not mistaken. Oh no, Saudi Arabia. I know what
Yeah,
I say.
right.
Saudi Arabia comes in third in defense spending.
That's corporate welfare for our.
Yeah. So those are my 2. Frankly, I don't even remember who I just voted for number 1.
Bernie. I saw your thing.
Did I do Bernie as number 1? I would, you know, Bernie, when I look back on Bernie's record, I find almost nothing that I disagree with.
Right.
So this would be the candidate that I would support. I feel the same way about Warren. I don't feel the same way about Harris, but I think she's eminently electable. And, you know, nobody said the most important thing for any Democrat is that they be electable and be Trump. Everything else comes second.
Right.
Because you can't do more damage to our country than is being done right now. Okay, anyone else want to go on? Yes, oh, good. I was going to talk all night.
I gave you the microphone because you're the one person
Well,
that
I
wouldn't.
agree with most of what you said. We aren't going to get anything if we don't have honest elections. We have to ensure that when we go to the ballot, that, and in this state, they're changing it. They're getting a changed ballot, and we all remember what happened in, 2000 when Bush was elected?
Oh, yeah.
What do we know, or how do we ensure that every ballot is counted honestly and fairly? I mean, I took umbrage at the fact that Susan Booker was fired because she was overwhelmed with old machines
Right.
where she didn't get financing to have more modernized machines. And it's the same with Broward County, and if you don't have fair elections, you can't do anything that you want to have done.
Right.
So that's my issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to point out one thing about all microphones when somebody hands them to you. If you point like this, they don't work. They're kind of unidirectional, so they don't pick up on the sides. So you want it like that, okay, like the licking ice cream.
Thank you. I marked
climate change as the most important because we're changing the world. You might have seen the news in July of 108-degree temperatures in Paris. Well, that heat dome, you know, where did it go next? Parked itself over Greenland. All right, well, let's melt Greenland. You're gonna raise sea levels around the world by more than 20 feet. That's how much ice is above the rocks. It's not icebergs, it's not floating around. When that goes, it's 20 feet. Now, that'll take a long time, but it's happening much faster than they thought. I believe the statistic was that in the month of July, 0.5 millimeter of sea level rise, so global sea level rise, has been kicked off because of the melting in July. 12 billion tons of water in one day, much less whatever it was over a month, 198 billion tons. It is happening. The forest fires around the Arctic Circle, and the exposure of the permafrost and the methane that starts to ooze out, and it is happening fast. It's happening now. It's daunting because in France, what, we have the Yellow Vest movement, and there's people who are impacted. What? You want to tax the money and make it hard to drive? This is our lives. There is conflict and there's danger in saying, oh, well, you know, I mean, I personally would say, yeah, Mohammed, the journalist from the Post who was killed by Saudi Arabia, we need to change our policy drastically from Saudi Arabia. And if they said, well, you can't have any more oil, great, we shouldn't be using your oil anyway. Well, I'm not out there leading, because that would not be a winner with lots of people, but I would just assume we'd be challenged to find other means than fossil fuels. A lump of coal took how many years, millions of years, to become a lump of coal? And in 1 second, poof, we return all of that carbon that was packed little by little over millions of years, poof. It is happening. And we have a generational responsibility to do something in the last 10 years. They've been talking about it since 1980. They've been talking about it since 1920, since whatever. They've theorized it. This is, what's that? Rachel Park. So this is, and how do you pursue it and not lose people, because the amount of change is staggering. I thought it was interesting in the first debate when Bernie said, you know, we really need to talk to the other big military spenders, and all of us agreed we don't need these military budgets. We need to put half these budgets into fighting climate change. He said that. Do you remember hearing that in the first debate? He slipped it in. It wasn't newsworthy, but that's the kind of attention we need. Hundreds of billions of dollars of changing how we do things. In terms of impeachment, I didn't mark that because that needs to happen now. It's not a presidential issue for later on. That needs to happen now. And some other marks there in my hand.
I will point out that Superman could turn that lump of coal into a diamond. We didn't talk about the Green New Deal. Dismissed as insanity, and yet when you look at it, to me it makes a lot of sense. I already feel guilty about going on a cruise in November. I want to get rid of all the cruise ships because they're doing the energy crisis.
I've had my hand updated.
Oh, you did. Okay, well,
I've had one.
okay. You're left hand up.
I usually do not like to answer surveys that say, which is more important than the other, because everything listed is usually has importance. But I do agree with David to the point that if we destroy our planet, then the others don't matter. But I also agree that fair elections, and fair elections not only means that you can't do things to eliminate a certain certain group of people, but the ballot we had last year was so badly designed that it raised questions. Even I questioned, where is the person? It was not done in order. But I also have many, many more conflicts than I've ever had. I do believe in experience. I didn't need to like Hillary Clinton, but I certainly recognized her experiences and her intelligence. I am so pleased with the young people who were voted into the House last year. However, they're a different generation than mine. I'm not a generation of instant gratification. And I think that they are young people who want to see change. You've got to be bold and take bold actions. And I don't know that they represent the majority of American people who say, let's get there. You know, the Affordable Care Act was fought against, but somehow it was never eliminated, even by this administration. So when you take something that has a good basis, why do you want to throw it out the window and start from scratch? Not that I don't want universal health coverage. So, okay, I want to deal with this person because that's what that person is talking about. But these people are saying things that make a lot of sense. So I find myself vacillating among the candidates. This is, in my judgment, and I'm no youngster, it is the most difficult election I have ever, in addition to which there are so many, and I can't wait for that number to blow. But everything's important. Everything. We've got to get out of endless wars. We need to get our climate back so that we can breathe clean air and drink. Michigan is still not drinking clean water. So, to be selective, my feeling is if we get the right people into government, and I don't care if it's a Republican, I mean, not that I don't care, I'd much rather be a Democrat, but if it's a reasonable, sane, knowledgeable person, I may disagree. I disagree with Democratic presidents, but at least somebody who is rational, who knows history, who wants to learn more. So I've talked too much. I don't think Thank you.
Well, what's on my mind tonight is, as I watch the Democratic debates, I'm absolutely fascinated by the candidates, and so many of them are so highly qualified, but I think, well, gee, if I voted for him or her to be the actual Democratic candidate, they wouldn't win over Trump because she's a female or he's gay. So, gee, I guess I really shouldn't root for them. I should really primarily root for the person that would beat Trump because that's the number one concern. So I'd be interested to hear other people's thoughts on that.
It's a touch of reality.
Hand it around.
It's a touch of reality.
Yeah.
Hey everyone. Okay, so I hope to bring a little bit of a perspective. I'm a millennial, and so when we're viewing things, I think what Trump brought to the last election was he brought these sound bites. He brought these things that people latched onto. He's not a good man, and I think people know that. I think people even who voted for him know that. I don't think what's upsetting to me right now is that, this is a room full of good people. You guys want to do community outreach. You guys are beautiful people. And I think, I think the Democratic, candidates right now are good, deeply good people. But where I'm at a loss is I don't know how we fight the evil, with good right now. I think someone has to be able to see whoever. I don't think that necessarily putting up the most good candidate will beat Trump. I think it has to be the person to beat Trump. You've seen him spar verbally with, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She can verbally spar with him. I'm not saying she's the most qualified by any means, but I'm saying whoever is going up against him has to have that debate skill, has to because I don't know just the most deeply good person will win, so.
Yeah, and it's not only, I mean, the person that everyone says would be the most electable, or until they watched the first debate, well, he looked left to right to see who raised their hands, or didn't know how to put a text number down, or said 8 more years instead of 8 years. The person who is, and I work for him, you know, if he's selected, but Biden does not have the debate skills to go up against Trump.
And the point is, we need to get him out of office.
Right, but the thing, no, but the thing, and the thing is, what I take heart from is just that in 2016, very few people thought that Trump would win. We thought it, and we were worried about it. But now people are saying, and when the people, the pundits are saying, well, this one has this weakness. He's gay. She's black. She's this, whatever. If the media does its job and the candidate does its job, Trump loses, in my view, because all you have to do is you have to point out. You just said
Beat him at
before
his own game.
that a lot of people that voted for him understand.
Right.
A lot of people.
There we go, you got the mic.
Elizabeth Warren won tonight in our group.
Yeah.
I voted for her tonight. Of course, like everyone, I will vote for and work for whoever wins. But Elizabeth Warren, you know, she's a woman. In a way, it may not be a detriment. Keep in mind how many women we have in this country. Keep in mind what Trump is doing and saying has done to women. So that's not a detriment now. There are going to be a lot of women who are angry.
In 2018, women won.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's proven that men will vote for women.
Exactly. And
Including Hillary.
she can fight.
She did.
You've seen
Oh,
her
yeah, sure.
argue, you've seen her fight, you've seen her, the vice president can, but she's out there, she can come on strong. She's a brilliant woman. She has a wonderful, all the things that we want to say. I think all the things she's saying, I'm agreeing with. So I'm going with her for now.
And Vito.
And I think she could beat him.
You know, I respect what everybody's saying, and so I'm not going to talk about the list of candidates, I saw the numbers. But, I could easily, in my personal opinion, disqualify half of the people on that list instantly. And I think a lot of people, it's easy to do, but there's still too many. We talked about that. But, so I respect what everybody's saying, but I think we're looking at this exactly the wrong way. Because here's what's going to happen, and we know this. The Republican Party, national, state, and local, knows that in a fair election, Trump loses. It almost doesn't matter who gets nominated, with a few exceptions. There are probably some that probably would lose to him in a fair election. But he would lose. And they know this, and they've known it since 2016. And they are prepared in every state to suppress the vote and engage in things that they got caught doing in 2016, 2018. Forget the Russians. The Republican Party does it. They stole Georgia from Stacey Abrams because of suppressing hundreds of thousands of African-American voters and in Texas and all these different things, okay? So, and I know, Bob, you could probably speak to this. I know the Democratic Party is mounting teams of lawyers in all the states ready to pounce, but you know what? It's going to be too late when that happens. It's going to be too late because people will already have not voted. And no matter what the lawyers do, it's going to be too late at that point. It always is because the courts have to shut it down. One second, Bob.
Oh, yeah, no, I'll have
Yeah,
more information.
I want you to. So what I want to say is this. This is my argument. There's not a proper way to say it, and I don't mean to do anything illegal because that's what the Republicans do, and I don't want to play that game. But what we have to do is let the Republicans know more than ever before that in 2020, because of everything this president has done for the last almost 3 years now, including this recent week, he is responsible for what happened, to say, you know what, there's no more, we just like the courts. There's no more, we're just loyal Republicans, we don't really like Trump. There's no more neutrality. If you vote for him, you are responsible and you are actually agreeing with what he is saying and doing. That's it. And so Republicans, those of you that are decent people, and there are a lot, I have Republican friends who I respect, and they don't like this president, they're torn, but you know what, this is what I say to them, this is what our message has to be in a proper way, stay home. You cannot vote for Donald Trump if you are not, if you are not in agreement with what he is saying. If you are a decent person, you may not vote for him. You cannot be a decent person and vote for Donald Trump in 2020. There may have been arguments in 2016, that's history, we don't care about that right now. In 2020, Republicans, if you vote for him, you are as bad as everything he says and does. And that has to be our message.
They will cheat.
Very well said, Rob. One of the things that I wanted just to embellish, Rob's comments with is regarding voter suppression. Yes, the Democratic Party already is forming voter protection teams in every one of the states. We already have hired full-time, well-paid directors of voter protection in the states of Florida, Georgia, and Michigan. Okay? And we're going to continue to expand. As we speak, cadres of attorneys and just, lay people who are interested in that one topic have been calling, I forgot his name already, shame on me, but our director of voter protection, who, by the way, in 2018, was our candidate for the 2nd Congressional District up in the Panhandle. Brandon Peters, thank you very much, yes. Brandon Peters is the Florida Director of Voter Protection. So, let's also look at numbers, okay? With everything that was pulled by the Republicans, with everything that was pulled by the Russians, 2.8 million more Americans voted for Hillary Clinton than voted for
They were illegal.
Donald Trump. And yes, of course they were illegal. What put this albatross on all of our shoulders was 77,000 votes. 77,000 votes in the state of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania.
Detroit, Milwaukee, and Philadelphia.
Pretty much.
Three cities. If the African American vote had been the same as in 2016, she would have won.
So
They came out, they were prevented from voting.
Well,
They
no,
threw
some of them,
away their
a lot
ballots,
of them,
and they weren't allowed
a
to
lot
vote.
of
They
them
had
also,
restrictions.
no, a lot of them didn't come out. I mean, one of the smartest things Trump did was say, if you keep voting the same way, you can expect the same vote. What do you got to, you can expect the same result. What do you got to lose? And those people didn't go out and vote for Trump, but they did exactly what Rob is talking about on the Democratic side. They said, I'm not going to vote for Clinton.
I think we need a woman. We need a woman on that ballot, because a woman will put him right in check. Any woman could put him in check.
Well, Hillary.
I think Hillary was really surprised, because when he was stalking her, if that had been one of the sisters, they would have turned around and told him off. And he would have backed off.
And Mary, with the utmost of respect, my response is 2.8 million. We won.
I know that, but
We won.
I think people would have seen that too. And I think it's time for, I think women really want to see a woman. I would like to see one before I die, 84.
But the point, so the game of election, the game of elections these days is it's not about who has the best commercials on television. It's not about who does the perceived best job in debates. It's very cynical, guys. It's about numbers. It's about turnout. And it's not just about numbers, it's about numbers in the right strategic places.
Yeah.
One such strategic place happens to be a state called Florida. We are here, we are at ground zero. This is the bottom line. If those 29 electoral votes go to someone whose name is not Donald Trump,
It's over.
it's over. He is out of the White House on January 20th. Done, drop mic, end of discussion. And that's why we Floridians have this, enormous opportunity and this enormous responsibility to make sure that those 29 electoral votes turn out to be Democratic electoral votes. No matter who the candidate is. No matter who. Blue, no matter who.
Supervisor election gets elected.
You know what, Bob, we really ought to start writing if other people have
I
a
would just like to make one comment. I'd like to just make one comment. I agree with everything that's been said, of course, but I also feel that we have to come from a position of positive stuff. When 52 is 53% women, white women voted for Trump in 2016, there's some education that needs to be done. There's some misogyny
What
that's...
percentage of black women voted for him? Do you know? Quite a
I
few black
forget.
women voted.
But the point you're making now is the block of black women are going to be the pivotal thing. They're going to be so strong, they are, and they're revving up, and they're smart. And so I like to think, okay, we're talking this way, what am I going to do with my feet on the ground now? I'm going to get every Democrat I can out to vote. That's another thing. That's what we can do, despite all this other stuff and how our opinions are. Usually in the primary, I like to vote with my heart, and then the nominee, then I vote get behind them. That's what I'd like to do, because no one has a crystal ball. And when President Obama got elected, that was brilliant. You know, so things, the climate, the landscape, the changes. It's changing under our feet right now. Okay, I just wanted to say, I wanted to be positive, come out, speak from our strengths.
And the other, you know, that Obama overcame. There were voter suppression going on when Obama was running. You know, you figure that the Democrats got to win by 2% in order to win, because that's, you know, that's the amount that they steal. And Obama got too many votes for them to be able to steal that election. I mean, at some point, you can't keep stealing, you know, and that's something that will happen. I think is going to happen in 2020. Okay, but if we can bring, unless anyone else has anything.
I got an email from somebody in Palm Beach about helping register voters. What is the plan? I have it in the meeting. We might talk about it every time and just skip this time. But what's the plan for also reaching out and registering new voters?
Oh, we have two.
Great question, Bernie. Thank you. So, yeah, so guys, since March, the Florida Democratic Party has led, and in fact, while I'm talking, if you guys want to start to move toward the back and get ready to write postcards, I can move around with the mic. I can do my Phil Dondi repetition. So yeah, please let's go to the back and get ready to write postcards while I talk about voter registration. So in March, we began a voter registration effort. And in May, the Florida Democratic Party announced a partnership with Forward Florida, the organization run by Andrew Gillum, with a plan to enroll 2 million new Democratic voters in the state of Florida. Okay. So what we are doing in Palm Beach County, for anyone who wants, so what we're doing in Palm Beach County is the voter registration is now falling in the hands of the zone leaders, people like myself. And we are looking for volunteers, not just our current cadre of precinct leaders, but also individuals who will get formally trained in the voter registration process. And we have classes going every month in voter registration. We have other ways of doing it as well. Once you are trained and certified to, this is not very successful.
We're listening.
Once you're trained and certified to register voters, there are two different types of efforts. Traditional voter registration. Now that involves things like tabling at certain key locations or at events that are going on around town. And they come to the table and we register. There's clipboarding, where you're going, say, to an arts festival, and you're going around asking people if they want to register to vote. But the other method is something called the 1 to 10 program. We have, from the DNC, we have acquired a list of new Floridians, people who are just moved to Florida and who were registered Democrats in other states. We're targeting these individuals and sending people specifically to those locations to get them to register in the state of Florida. We also, part of this list does include, in fact, some returning citizens. So we're sending people out on a very targeted basis, each one covering, somewhere, say, between 9 and 15 people who they've been asked to locate, and we give them, their address and everything else with a script and with a clipboard, ready to register them to vote. That program is going on as we speak. The entire county. Okay, I am, myself and my colleague Phil Cerruti, we are responsible for all of the voter registration efforts in Zone 8. So if you want to get involved, the first thing we have to do is get you trained. You have to go through the voter registration class. The next, it is all.
Well, the class though.
Yes.
I can build a website.
Yes, but so there are formal classes. The next seating for people in South County is in October. We have openings for
A little late, don't you think? That's what I'm talking about. No, I think
Well, we
it's
have-
on Saturday night. It's on Saturday night.
That actually it's been moved to Saturday afternoon in Palm Beach Gardens.
Okay, but it's, so that's what
But for people who live in South County, like, getting up to the PGA is a little bit tough. If you're interested in getting trained to register voters, talk to me. I will find a way to get you trained. Whether I train you, whether Marlene trains you, or we get you into a class, we'll get you trained.
Yeah, it doesn't,
Okay. Okay. Very good one. Thank you.
yes.
All right.
And also,
Are we ready to write postcards?
yeah, well, next time we get the calendar, they decide what his last.
That's less than 100%. You can't reach that, but that's not significant. Electorally not significant. It's scary to know that in the country.
You know where the actual.
Yeah. I talked to him. He's really happy. Yeah.
Curious to kind of do voting. Not doing. I think the same thing would come out on top of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a lot of things talked about this for a long time. But yeah, nothing like that. Really like all the well, they're
So I'll reach out to you.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing was like, holy crap, this guy. Yeah.
That's one other thing, you'll see some names are obviously not Haitian. Don't use those, I mean, there's no point in having.
Maybe we're going to show you 21. So you know, you probably know 2 and 4 are up let's talk 20. Sure. So, in 21, in C5 is the mayor. So if you run for that seat, you're running for mayor. You know the name I think. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No question. But you don't have to. I would. So 5's out of the way. One, you have, before he. Exactly. Yes. Completely.
Everyone knows that you're gonna write a note in English and
Feel free to write a couple of words.
He also, you know, a lot of people make that mistake. So it's, can he be beat? Yes. It's a wickedly tough election. Absolutely. So let's talk three. He's an MP. You know, philosophically, he's more left-leaning, right-leaning, but he's a better MP. Totally. He's basically out there right now. Are you kidding me? Sure. Absolutely. Yeah, so he's in.
Yes.
Absolutely. So he's in with Jim.
They're not allowed
No, he's in with some specific. He's not like really in with Flight out, but he's not, he's not a bum. Yeah.
peer away. And so I need to learn. So I'm going to start learning in third grade language. Because I don't even know the terminology, you know, but just because there is a system. But Robert, you said this, you know, about the secret elections. That would then, if you're correct, paramount issue. You said if it's a normal election, it doesn't. But it's not, so.
Part of it is that they may not be registered to vote by mail.
But they are registered to vote.
It does say Democratic Party, so we're not. Right?
What?
These are already registered.
Yes, they are. But I don't think it's a problem that it asks them in Rio to register, and vote, because.
They can share this card with somebody they know.
Right, and they can also, you know, some of them, although actually in that district, they're very resistant to voting by name. And I don't blame them, I'm curious.
Now, is there anybody that's even going to vote against Trump? There's no Trump. That's
Bill
gonna
Weld.
run against him?
Bill Weld. Bill Weld, former governor of Massachusetts. Oh, no, nobody's gonna.
Nobody has a chance because he's so.
Ian's free.
I don't think so. They can't stand up to him.
The thing is,
I mean, he's so dirty.
well, sure.
Unusual things. Well, when you're starting to go after the family and stuff, that's, I understand. Yeah.
There's only one thing Republicans care about. They're like rabid sports fans. All they want. It's absolutely ridiculous. That's right.
Somebody said,
And so.
there's no such thing as not voting.
So as a result, they're going to like water, they're going to flow the path of least resistance in order to get that W. That path of least resistance is acquiescence to Trump. That's what, you know, they don't want, you know, and it's senators and congressmen, they don't want to face primary challenges from people who are even more right than they are. As business people, they, you know, they're man from heaven, they got their big tax cut. And for those, those Republicans who have a heart in the direction of white nationalism, somebody who's carrying a flag. And for the rest of the Republicans, it's just about women. And so the totality is they're going to have a better chance with Trump than anybody who
So why you
Yeah, if Bill Weld or John Kasich or, or anybody, the Republican Party will somehow pull off a miracle and beat Trump in the Republican nomination, they will lose in the landslide in the Yeah. So it is Trump. Where do you live?
When I used to live in Connecticut, right? And then I moved down here from that. I was in Norwalk area.
Sure. I was in Stamford for 3 years and Cheshire for 2.5 years.
On Gulf Road.
Yeah. Okay.
Hale Ridge.
Yeah. Sure.
Not tonight.
You know, I'm really comforted by finding you all because I'm very fish out of water down here being such a red state. I'm extremely uncomfortable. Even though I'm not politically oriented.
Sure.
I feel very out of place and I want to connect with because we're so divided now. like you said, it's built by association.
Well, that, I mean, that's what
I think you guys hit it, and I don't think, I mean, it's not meant to be. And I'm not alone, I know that, and I think, well, here I can come here and be with people who they want to try, because out there, in Massachusetts, I was fine. You know, I was very comfortable here, but down here, outside Boston. So down here, it's really nice to connect, it's important because
Sure.
hate to say it, but you say safe.
Yeah.
I look forward to it. I think what they do is register, take the course. There's help to register people. It's a nice slot. It's entry level. And you can go online and find things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you should say.
Yes. And
Because I learned a lot just from listening to you. I don't know.
he wanted to,
so we're, you live in, this is zoning, you live in zone 7W, which is, the Point Beach West zone. We have two outstanding zone leaders there, Ani Bernstein and Doug Walker. They will at some point, once you get your VR training, they will become aware of it and probably be in contact with you at some point, or initiate contact with them, and you can join us.
I'd like to get involved really in college and help this college be able to sign up for the whole parking shooting. Where are they? I mean, are they, they're Gen Z, are they, because they were saying, just you vote, we're gonna vote. We're gonna shoot, and do you feel confident that they are going to show up at the polls and vote, like they say they are?
Well,
Or is school still out on the Gen Zs?
No, I mean, they're on, it's an upward path. Millennials, I mean, Gen Z, of course, is working with millennials. Like Kate is like right on the cusp. Millennials are now, just population-wise, millennials have just surpassed baby boomers as the largest population, largest plurality in the United States. And evidence based on turnout that we saw in 18 is such that we know that there's going to be a continued upward turnout among both Gen Z and millennials. We also have very specific outreach campaigns in place to get there. In fact, one of my 18,000 side projects is my background is in IT, and I'm working through the system to try to get funding for a new app called My Vote Matters. That will, is specifically designed to engage Gen Z and millennials. Yep.
Yeah, it'd be great to look at that.
Sure, you bet.
Appreciate all you're doing, Laura. Appreciate all you're doing.
You bet. So, yeah, no, keep coming.
I will. We'll sign up for the.
Excellent.
All right, thank you.
You bet. Yeah, so, I got the guy's a slime, and yes, he's powerful, but he's not, you can beat him. You can beat him. If you run 21, you got to run for 3. That's going to be the easiest path. That's right. And, Ryan, he's got this Never radio show, and, he has this blog, he does things to stay in the community, but, he's, I wouldn't say that he's a house. And he has weaknesses that can be exploited. And he's an MP. Now, let's talk about that. 2020 brings upward opportunities.
You're telling me that if Obama had scandals, that he had scandals like that, if Fox News did report on
Okay, we've got about 6 minutes to go. You have to be out of here at 9 o'clock. I'm going to
Yeah, this is a nonpartisan issue. Obviously, we can make sure
But the
that
other
we
thing that I'm also gonna help,
especially the
is the black
Okay,
vote
we can
come
turn a race
because,
into a Bathurst
you know,
when you